Hello, everyone. Welcome inside the Red Earth Production Studios for this edition of YBMcast, powered by Game 7 Baseball, game7baseball.com. Fall ball happening. Get yourself signed up. Got some great tournaments coming up. If you just want to play, get some swings in, game7baseball.com. Play out at the WAC. Got one down at Ballparks of America as well this fall. So check out the fall championships. Good stuff coming up. Go tell Dave and Dave that Brian over at YBMcast sent you. All right. Today on the Prime Sports Midwest call-in link, we have a couple of guests on the show here. Well, one guest and the guru, as always, Mr. Kevin Mulder. How we doing, Kevin?
Doing great, Brian. How about yourself?
Well, I'm getting over a bastion, and I appreciate you guys. I appreciate Daryl pushing off to this week. Last week I was down for the count, man, and but I'm back in the saddle this week, and we appreciate feeling better. So, but joining us from M.S.H.A.A., the assistant executive director. I said that correct this time, didn't I, Daryl?
Yeah, you did.
I'm finally getting it. It's been only 5 years. So there you go. Daryl Bradley joining us on the call-in link.
So this area back here is basically production. They do a lot of the artwork back here. They do the production. So any of that stuff that comes in off of, we'll say, our fanware stores, stuff that comes in off the team stores, a lot of the coaches wear, a lot of the last minute, hey, we got to have it in the next 10 minutes stuff. That's all comes back here. This area is where all the day-to-day stuff that comes in really goes through. The retail store is its own little entity. This is where the real work is done.
We appreciate you taking the time, Daryl.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
As always, man, as always. I want to give you this because this is always something that I think is important. I know Kenny Seifert had started this, a couple years ago. You guys are always looking referees, umpires, officials. How is that going? Where can people, if they're interested, sign up? Where do they get involved in helping take away the shortage, Daryl?
Yeah, they can go to our website, www.M.S.H.A.A.org, and we have a link for an official. We have an officials link. They click on the officials link, and it has all the information listed there. So, they have to, there's a little fee associated with it, but, you can definitely make that feedback, quickly. Once you get all your, of course, there are other fees associated with umpiring, getting all your equipment, and but you can certainly make that back within a couple of games. It's a very easy process, but basically you get signed up. There's a registration fee. You have to take part 1 rules test. You have to sign up for them. Well, this is for postseason officials, and we want to get you involved in the postseason, but you have to take a mechanics clinic 3 of your first 5 years. So you have to complete that, and then take part 2 test, and then register for the postseason. And but as soon as you get going that with just signing up, registering, if you go to a mechanics clinic or a rules meeting, and we have those sites listed, or those dates, we will have those dates updated when we get a little closer to the spring season, but mainly in the winter, so you can get it done before then. But at that time, you can meet your assigners. There are different people that you'll need to get hooked up with, so they can get you games at the middle school and high school level. So or you can always call the office. We got people here wanting to help out, and we can walk you through that process if you're having some difficulty navigating. But I think it's a fairly easy process. Go to M.S.H.A.A. YBMcast.org. Click on the officials tab, and then you can get going that way.
If you're a young guy out there and you need make a little extra cash, it's a great way to do so. I've umpired for M.S.H.A.A. before. I want to try. I'm even thinking about trying to get back into it. I don't know though. I may be, I don't know if I'm that good anymore, man. My eyesight's going.
Some coaches would like to say that's not a factor, Brian. That's a joke.
I love it. I love it.
I would like to point out that whoever is in charge, whether it's the umpire associations or M.S.H.A.A., they are doing a great job of making sure the top officials, umpires, are getting to the state championships, because from what I've seen the last 3 years, as a whole, the strike zones are always very consistent. Professional job by the umpires. Usually give kids and understand the gravity of the games that those kids are playing in and handle it really well. So hats off to that crew for the way they are going about that.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah, because Kevin and I said, there was a no-hitter thrown in the semifinal this year. Lafayette pitcher, his name has escaped me. Do you remember his, gosh.
Yeah, Oswald. Tyson
Right.
Oswald.
Tyson Oswald. And, Kevin and I was sitting next to Kevin, we're watching this, and that umpire was spot on, man. It was legit. I thought the strike zone was competitive, both sides. It was a legit no-hitter.
And sometimes you see umpires get caught up and know that it's a no-hitter, and will start giving like an extra, sometimes as much as 15 inches off the plate, and the zone stayed true the entire time. And that was a great job by him too.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's easy. I've been there. You get caught up in the emotion of something. The game heightens, and you're like, oh my gosh. I just start calling strikes. Hey, it's easy to do. But so if you're interested, please, officials are always needed. It's a great opportunity. I know Billy Buchanan is a signer around here, the GSL, Greater St. Louis Umpires Association. You have the MUA, Missouri Umpires Association, as well. Those are the ones I'm aware of. Reach out, go check them out if you're interested. Clinics, get yourself involved. It's a great way to work in the community and make a little extra cash as well. So always fun to do that stuff. All right. We have something new here, Daryl. We talked with Coach Dave Wilson, who retired this year from Staley, but he had proposed and went through committee and all the stuff, a new playoff format for Class 5 and 6, and that has been voted through. So we're going to see that this year in the 2025 playoffs. Can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, and a lot of this, was proposed before I got in this position. So this has been a long process, when Dave was on the advisory committee. And I do know that there has been several proposals that have come through the advisory committee that has ultimately been turned down by the membership or the board. Don't just make decisions based on just a different area, or there's a lot of things that go into finalizing some of these things that go through. And this is a proposal that was just for classes 5 and 6 only, because they lacked one of the levels. They don't have a sectional level. They have more teams in their district tournament. So that's what it came down to, that they had one less level, because classes 1 through 4 have that sectional quarterfinal, and then they go to that Final Four. But it's kind of been pushed back and forth through different committees. I know it went to the board of directors. They wanted some more information. It was pushed back to AD advisory committee. They thought it was a good idea to talk about this proposal at the area meetings. That's where we go around the state and we talk about different topics. And then there was a survey that went out, and it was pretty favorable for passing this. And so that's what kind of led the board to making this type of decision. That this information was shared around the state. It was received favorably amongst the membership according to the survey, and therefore it was passed. And so we will have a best 2 out of 3 series for the quarterfinals for classes 5 and 6 only. So the winner of that best 2 out of 3 will then go on to the final 4. The way that will be played is they will have one game on Friday. And the date eludes me. I apologize, but it's going to be reciprocated from past years. It'll still be that same weekend. So the first game will be on Friday, and then game 2 will be on Saturday, and then game 3, if necessary, will be Saturday afternoon. And so the winner of that series will move on.
That's exciting news. That's a massive step forward for Missouri high school baseball, in my opinion. And I know the coaches have been clamoring for it, and we've pointed out how competitive Missouri high school baseball has gotten, and the level of play has risen, and most of the other states that are highly competitive in baseball, more your traditional southern states, all have double elimination format, and I think this is a huge step forward, and this is great for our 5 and 6A schools, and we've talked about on this show, and you're right, with the extra level built into the 4, 3, 2, 1A schools. But there's also a pitching aspect to this where you do have to be a certain size school to have the type of pitching that requires to play a 3-game series. And we also know baseball is a different sport than football, basketball, volleyball, soccer, whatever. So much of it is dependent on the pitching. So now, if you have one school that has that stud pitcher, it's not as dependent on one player. Puts it more on a team. And I think when you're looking at a state championship bracket and format, I think that's really important, that it should be more on team versus one individual. And that's kind of what happened in our old sectional format. It would be, who had the best pitcher, and they were going to advance. Now you're going to have to win 2 out of 3. So if you're that top seed and you're facing the best pitcher in the state per se, you drop game 1, you still have a shot to come back 2 out of 3, and I like that. And it mirrors similar to a super regional in the college format, which has been wildly successful. And we've had some great crowds at our sectional games. We've been out over the years, and we're talking 1,000 plus, 1,500, 2,000 people at some of these games. So that's going to be exciting, and I think a really positive step forward for Missouri high school baseball.
And you brushed on it. I mean, previously you could have that dominant pitcher, pitch in the district championship game, pitch in the quarterfinal game, and then pitch in the first round of the the semifinals. So really, you could have that one person bring you all the way to the championship game. So it's a good point to bring up, and hopefully this will it'll definitely change things a little bit. So it's exciting.
Yeah, I think it gives more breadth to, because we talk about this a lot on the show as far as, the depth of pitching, and it matters through the season. And then all of a sudden, with some of these bigger schools, you don't even see that guy pitch in the postseason unless, somebody gets hurt.
And that was a complaint, and coaches kind of figured this out, and Daryl touched on this as well. With the district play, and then you wait a week to play your sectional game, roughly a week, sometimes 6 days, sometimes 7, depending on the setup of that district. But then you'd be relying on a pitcher in the championship game, if you advanced on that hadn't pitched in 2 weeks, which is also in baseball such a rhythm sport because you throw your number one pitcher in the sectional game and then again in the semifinal game. So there'd be a huge gap. So it just made for this makes a ton of sense. This is, again, a huge win for Missouri high school baseball.
Absolutely. And Daryl, for people that, we talk about class 1-4, I know 1-4, Kevin brought up some of the smaller schools, address some of those things, because when we discuss this a little bit, just in our conversations, how do you address those schools? I know everybody talks about fairness and things and whatnot, but yet sometimes structure of things doesn't always work across the board. How do you guys, approach those things and discuss that moving forward?
Well, we approach it just like the way this was shared. I mean, this was presented. There's got to be a plan that is presented by the advisory committee, and then it goes through the same process, and then the board will kind of go in and out, and they need to take it back to a committee to get more information. I kind of compare it, yes, I don't, right now we're not there. And I think it would need to go through the same process. You need a good plan. You need to have some type of rationale behind it and why this is good. And then I think it's going to come down to getting everybody on board on the same page. I look at something like, I don't know if you're familiar with the shot clock in Missouri basketball. Right now, that's a big topic. And that's been on the table for a long time. The coaches want it. And I believe most of your baseball coaches may want a playoff. But the ADs and the schools haven't quite been on board with it because of, it could be all kinds of reasons. But it could be they don't believe they have the resources as far as maybe the financial behind it or the travel involved. They don't have the pitching reasons. So it could be a myriad of reasons why. But I believe that there needs to be some type of consensus. I mean, a plan needs to be shared. It needs to have some rationale behind it. And then they need to get their ADs and administrators on board if something like that was going to pass. But currently, right now, it's just 5 and 6 right there. And then 1 and 4, I mean, we'll see. I'm sure that it will be proposed. And I believe that this will lead to some further discussions upon, adding other classes to it. But right now, we're not there yet.
Yeah. I personally, I like the formats with that, and the 1-4. I think there's some great opportunities there. I still like the sectional in between moves that, and it's been some really high level baseball at that. Now, when just for people so they understand, and this is one of the things I really like about this, is when you say advisory committee, who makes up the advisory committee, Daryl?
Well, we have our 8 board districts around the state, and it's split up geographically. And then those board members appoint a head coach to that advisory committee. And it is the responsibility of our advisory committee members for that particular sport to reach out to all the coaches and to reach out, communicate with them. Hey, if you have a proposal as far as a manual change or a bylaw change, or if you want something changed, you need to, get this proposal in line before we have our committee meeting that meets. Well, currently they meet in June, but there's discussions on pushing it to in the fall. But I can get into that later. But it's the responsibility of that advisory committee member to reach out to the coaches, collect those proposals, send them to us. We get them on an agenda and we meet about it and we discuss about it. And then whatever comes from that meeting, whether or not, they get discussed, and then, they could be, those recommendations could be passed on to the board, or they could be tabled for more discussion or more study or whatever happens. But that gets pushed onto the board for either approval or denial. So that's kind of where we go. And sometimes, they get pushed through. Sometimes they get pushed for more discussion, but that's kind of the process. but they're made up of head coaches are all around the state, and they're relying on coaches to get those proposals together.
Kevin, as a former coach and guy that's been involved, how difficult is it to necessarily get all these coaches on the same plane and thinking about the same things and moving some of those? What's the difficulties in that?
There can be some challenges to this. Obviously, some people are looking for a competitive advantage. But I think, as a whole, in having been to the Missouri High School Baseball Coaches Convention the past couple of years, I think there was a general consensus, certainly at the 5 and the 6A levels, that, yeah, this makes a lot of sense. But, yeah, anytime Daryl touched on the shot clock, like, anytime we're talking about this, if I got a team that plays fast and Daryl has a team that likes to slow the pace down and relies on defense, well, Daryl's not going to want the shot clock, and I'm going to push for the shot clock. So if I'm a team that's playing in the 80s, Daryl's a team that plays in the 40s. You can figure out which way we're going to vote. So you gotta have a group of guys that are willing to put the greater good of the sport or the organization ahead of individual goals, and I think that was done in this situation, certainly. And you can get into the weeds, and I think they're taking the right first step. The 1 and 4A, you'd have to specifically talk to those coaches. I'm not sure there's the pitching depth there, because you also don't want to, in the World Series, professional baseball, they play a 7-game series. I don't think that's appropriate. We don't have that type of pitching depth to do that. So it's I think you just got to look at what your resources are, what the rosters are, what age they are, et cetera, to make the best decisions. And I think a 2 out of 3 in this specific situation is the right call.
And that's the other thing, Daryl. And I think most people, we've talked at length, and I think the general population, general public, doesn't really understand this or know these things. But a lot of these decisions are based from the school districts, the athletic directors, and looking at, when we talk about resources, we're not just talking about the players on the field. We're talking about resources, buses, hotel, the nuts and bolts of getting players and getting people to these places. You may have a rain out. Where do you move it to then? And there's a lot of factors that go into these decisions as well, correct?
Yeah, and you bring up a good point. I mean, we just don't sit up here in Columbia and make decisions. We don't have our little finger on every little thing, and then that's what probably the biggest misconception is. There's a lot of thought that goes into decisions, and our board of directors ultimately makes those decisions, but I rely on our schools, our coaches, our administrators to help guide them through those decisions, and they're going to try to make the best decision for the entirety of the state, based upon a lot of information, like you said. The resources is a big thing, and do these classes 1 through 4 have the pitching, like you said? Do they have the resources to stay in a hotel? I mean, there's a lot of factors that goes into it. And you bring up, I compare it to shot clock a little bit, and I kind of go back to that. You want to put, 6, 7, 8 grand into something. Can everybody do that? And so they just try to make the best decision possible. But there's a lot of factors that goes into it. We just don't sit up here and make decisions. We try to make the best decision possible for everybody involved. And like you said, I do agree that this is a good step in the right direction. So we'll see where it leads us, and I'm sure we'll have continued discussions on this. This isn't going away, but I agree that this is a positive step in the right direction.
Brian, one thing, my wheels are already spinning on this 2 out of 3. one thing that's going to be interesting is, and I don't even know whose decision this is, if the coaches take a hard look at putting this also at neutral sites. Weather does come into play in a situation like this. Having an all-turf facility, lights, um, you are dealing with pretty good crowds and can collect a gate, which will help offset some of the expenses for the hotels, and also just giving a good playing experience and fan experience. And that'll be something that I think will be interesting to watch unfold over the next year or two. But we've both been to these sectional games, Brian, where at a high school field, sometimes these crowds kind of almost overwhelm the venue. But then you mix in real world, issues like if you don't have lights and it rains all day, well, now that game's bumped back a day. There, and then you got a second night in a hotel. So then the facility thing is a real issue that I will foresee happening over the next year or two, depending on how the weather goes. Obviously, it can be hit or miss, but that'll be something that will be interesting to keep an eye on. But just from a growing the game standpoint, you can put some nice crowds together. And if this game, is played in St. Charles at Lindenwood University, and over in Kansas City, it's at William Jewell, or U.S. Bank Ballpark in Springfield or Metter, or there's plenty of opportunities and options. But it will be interesting to see if the coaches fall into line with that, or hold fast to keeping them on their sites.
Excuse me. The other thing too with that, Kevin, is, from a coach's standpoint, you're talking about these things, as Daryl points out, these going to these advisory committees as a coach. If you're looking for a change, say of the shot clock or whatnot, how are you approaching your AD? Is that something you're talking to him about consistently? How do the coaches handle those things, and who are they talking to? Are they just having to go to superintendent meetings to discuss that at that level, to where it's a matter of funding?
Well, once I'll just go back to the class 5 and 6 discussion. When this process was playing out, the area meetings were very important, where we shared all the information.
Uh-huh.
That's when those ADs should be going to their baseball coaches and really getting input on how they would vote for a ballot change, or for how do you feel about this? See, I can answer this correctly. What's in the best interest of your school or your town, your community, and then what's good for baseball. So that's how it kind of plays out. It goes to area meetings, or they have a ballot or a survey. So it's real important. A lot of this, it depends on that AD,
Mm-hmm.
but I know that these topics are discussed at the Coaches Association meetings. When this was getting discussed back, I believe it's November. Is that correct? When that's when all this should have been happening. They should have been going, as a coach, hey, I hear this is kind of going through. Here's how we feel about this. Be on the lookout for this topic in the area meetings. Be on the lookout for surveys. So that's kind of how it happens. So it's shared from our advisory committee members out to the coaches. Be on the lookout for these things. They should be having conversations with their ADs. And at the same time, these ADs should be coming back from these 8 area meetings where these topics are discussed, and then communicating with their baseball coaches so they're on the same page. Okay. So they can give their responses based upon what is best for them.
Interesting. I like this thought process, and I liked what you said. Could you imagine a 3-game series, a Francis Howell and a CBC, or a Vianney and a West, or something at a venue like that, where we've seen crowds upwards of thousands of people, just kind of crammed in. But it's everybody, and they're starting. We're coming up there, and there's tailgating. People are having a good time. I think the game is moving forward in that respect. That way, it's a lot of fun. The atmosphere is great. Even at district games around here, I've been at some of the Class 4 district games and the sectionals and things like that. St. Charles West has really garnered big crowds. So people are traveling for these games as well. So I think that bodes well for what's going on for the game of baseball.
Well, I
in
think
that respect.
It's a good point to bring up because we're going to learn a lot from this year. But I believe, schools, I mean, it's going to be handled the same way. Odd years at the top of the bracket will host, even year bottom. It's going to be that school's responsibility to look at their seating capacity and can they handle it there? And do they need to move it? And they need to have a plan B for if they do have weather and they don't have a turf field. And handle it the same way they normally would to try to fit it in that window so we can move on to the Final Four. So we'll learn a lot, and if we need to make adjustments, we'll make those adjustments. But right now, there are no capacity limits on, it'll be communicated to these hosts that you need to look at what your seating capacity is, and do you expect that to be you to have overflow, and do you need to move it to a different venue? And that's certainly an option for those schools. But we'll see how it goes this year. Make adjustments, try to make it a great experience for everybody involved.
Very good, Kevin. I'm looking forward to it. I want to get back to this. We've been now covering the state championships for a while. I know we'll be down back at Ozark Mountain Sports Complex. Yeah, I think this is the latest iteration. It was Sky Bacon, and I think it was funny. But the ownership down there are really nice people. Really enjoyed working with those folks down there. They were very kind, very helpful all week. But Ozark Mountain Sports Complex, they're making some big changes right now. There's a lot of construction going on and whatnot. I think it's this year and then 2026, correct, Daryl? It's still
Correct.
be down there.
Yes.
When does the motion start for where it goes to next and taking bids and all that stuff?
I believe it'll start very soon. I know we try to do that within 2 years out. So that process will be happening very soon. So I that's something that Craig Long could probably answer for us a little better than myself. So that's kind of his department. But we will know. We try to figure out a venue at least a couple years in advance. So we'll know something very soon. I do know that we do have a great relationship with the city of Ozark and Jeff Hunter and Randy Merriman. They do a great job out there. So it's been good. They actually helped us out in a situation. We went there 2 years earlier, I believe, than we were scheduled because of scheduling issues at the previous ballpark. So it's been good. We'll see what happens and communicate that once we kind of know something. But we're getting close to it.
Certainly checks a lot of boxes. It has the turf, it has the indoor down the left field line for teams to warm up, and I believe there's development of a couple new fields going in close, like across the parking lot, which could lead to possibilities of teams being able to take pregame batting practice, and which would make it a unique facility and kind of separate it from other options, in my opinion. So they've done a good job hosting. It seems like a good venue to host a championship.
And they made several improvements. They made an officials area that's dedicated totally to officials with showers and air conditioning. So there's been some areas where they were out there in the heat, in between games and things. So I think it's comfortable. They've definitely improved the aesthetics of it. Did some painting, did a really good job of making it look good. And I tell you what, we had some rain this year. They were out there squeegeeing the field, and they really do a good job of taking care of us. So we'll see what happens with the new construction. I was actually down there a week ago, dropping some stuff off, and they did they the blacktop. They did put a fresh coat in the parking lot, so it looks better. But as far as the construction, I think it's a little behind. So we'll keep our fingers crossed. Don't see a lot of stuff going on. There's barrier little walls down around it, so something's going to happen. But I figured we see some ground broken on a hotel by now. But that stuff, it takes time sometimes, and we'll see what happens.
Absolutely.
Daryl, you touched on the weather, and that would be one issue that came up last year. Is we on our semifinal day for the 5 and 6A, there was some major weather issue, and specifically the Francis Howell Blue Springs game. Started in a rain, and clearly was affecting conditions. Then there was a rain delay. It was I thought an unfortunate situation to start that game in those conditions with you have two elite pitchers and whatnot, and then they both get scratched after the rain delay after about an inning of baseball. How are those decisions made? And I certainly understand there's a schedule to keep and whatnot. Are alternative plans looked at for possibly if things get delayed, playing like third place games and whatnot at a different site, or just canceling to make sure that the games that are playing for the state championship are being able to be carried out in a good manner? I thought that was, and I don't know if you were there or not, but that was, I thought, a tough situation to put Blue Springs and Francis Howell, and in my opinion, kind of ruined the integrity of the game. What was your position?
I mean, I'll own it. You make decisions based upon weather forecast, and sometimes you don't make the best decisions, and that falls on my shoulders. So, I mean, thought there was a window to get it done, and unfortunately, the weather was a little. It was just, there wasn't any lightning. There was just a lot of rain, and it's unfortunate. But that those are situations that you learn from, and that certainly, we shouldn't have started that game. The goal was, you don't want to get rid of those third place games, and that's certainly the protocol. That's the facility we're in. There wasn't any. I mean, I'm sure that we could have at the last minute tried to get those at a different location. That's just certainly not. We don't want to do that. We want to have it in that venue. We're set up for that venue. We have so many workers set up, and there's a lot that goes into putting those things on. So number one, I think if we would have just started that or delayed it, to start at a certain time instead of starting that game, that's one thing that we'll learn from. And then number two, I mean, we just don't want to get rid of those third place games. But it's unfortunate. Just try to learn from it and get better. And that's certainly something that I will do moving forward. But I don't know. They were all good sports. They were all very good. They were, both coaching staffs were very accepting, and they may have said something other than what they were telling me, but they were very understanding. They understand the situation and move forward with their teams, and they played hard. And it's unfortunate, like I said. I mean, there's a good pitching matchup that was didn't come to fruition like we thought it would. But you just try to make the best decisions possible with the information that you have, and that's what we did, and went from there. So no, but I appreciate the question.
certainly you can't control the weather, and
Sure.
that's the one reality of baseball. But baseball is certainly a different sport, and I think that's
Mhm.
important to look at when you're comparing it to like a soccer game or a football game that are also usually played outside. I understand there are dome situations, but stopping a football game or stopping a soccer game due to lightning, or if we can get 40 minutes in, it's
Yeah.
different than a baseball game. It's even different than a softball game because the softball
Sure.
pitchers can recover, they can keep pitching, but once a baseball guy pitcher is done for 45 minutes or so, they're done.
Yeah.
But I do think that is an interesting possibility also down at that facility. And I don't even know the name of it anymore. I call it U.S. Ballpark. Brian is but if
Ozark
they did
Mountain
get
Sports Complex.
Yes.
yeah, if they did get that second facility, that would open our field, or I think even two fields. That would be a
Mhm.
nice safety net to fall back on. Obviously you want to play every game at the stadium, but if there was a venue where, if there was rain, and you guys are running the gauntlet, you guys got 1A through 6A in about 6 days. So that's
Hmm.
extremely difficult. You're going to encounter weather. Odds are, in Missouri spring, late May, early June, whatever. You're going to run into weather. It would be really fortunate, a real nice luxury if they did get that field, because it could open up some backup plans, if you will. So
I
something to keep an
agree.
eye on.
I agree. It would be real nice to have something like that, and that would certainly help in a situation like that. So, like I said, we'll wait and see how fast they get that going. I know that they have some plans to add some more fields and add a lot of
Yeah.
new things. But I agree, it would be great.
This is one of the things, folks, I love about having from when we started with Kenny to, now Daryl has been with us the last couple of years, and Doug Fessler. Fessler before that. You guys have been very open about decisions, whatnot. We appreciate you, taking the time to answer those types of questions because, I think it's interesting because you're just people, and I think sometimes that gets lost in this. Everybody looks at Misha, and say, well, you're
Yeah.
just a guy trying to do the best you can job. We don't always make the best decisions. As a business owner, I've made some bad decisions as well
Yeah.
in things, and I've made good decisions. And so you have to. It's that learning process, and it's being able to face those things. And I think you guys, Daryl, you've always been upfront and doing that, and I appreciate that. I appreciate it
Thank you.
greatly.
Well, I'm going off of my experiences as a former coach and longtime AD, and you consult with the people that you have there with you. And luckily, I did have Doug Fessler with me, who's run the state tournament before. And yeah, I mean, looking back now, it's easy to do that. You know, yeah, we should have started that game when the rain cleared out, but we didn't. But in the overall scheme of things, we did get to play all the games there. It was a late Friday night. So I am happy that we got to finish all the games. We got them in. There was no injuries. I mean, but we had a couple of bat slips. That didn't look good at all. But I thought that, I don't want to criticize anybody. I mean, we probably should have stopped those games a little sooner than what they were. But looking back, should have started later. And be the first to admit that. Yeah, looking back, I mean, I wish I could have changed that about it. But in the overall scheme of things, we got some teams that got to continue to play, and they got some third place games in, and we got it. We got them done, and you know, um, just move forward and learn from it, and that's all I can do. That's for sure.
Yeah, and overall, I thought it was a great tournament, and
Yeah.
yeah, I appreciate you answering the question, and
Yeah.
it it kind of goes back. It is very difficult to run six four-team state tournaments, which you're doing in a 6-day window, and it's, where is their perfect venue for it, and you got one field, and there's a lot of factors in play that are extremely challenging and difficult, and understand the situation you all are in is not so easy.
Well, I
It's
wouldn't
not
want to have it
easy.
any other way, honestly. I look at a softball championship, which is great. They got several fields going on at once, but with the baseball championship, you're the only game in town. I mean, that's it. And you don't have all these other games going on, and who gets to play on the best field. And I like it. It's just one at a time, and but if you do have that backup, you have some backup fields, that gives you some more options. But I do like the format, and I certainly wouldn't want to change it. But because there are other championships that have that, you're not the only game on at the same time. There's multiple games going on at once, and so it is kind of nice the way we do it. Don't want to change it, but it would be nice to have some backups, though.
Yeah, I agree.
Absolutely. Kevin, anything else?
No. One question on the date. Did you guys is the calendar fall kind of weird this year, or was the date of the championship scooted back a week intentionally?
This is a rollback year for M.S.H.A.A. So all of our championships are back 1 week. So instead of playing over Memorial Weekend or that weekend, we will start a week later. So I believe it's June 2nd through the 6th. I believe
7th,
so.
yeah.
So that's for all of our championships. So everybody's moving back a week.
Okay.
Is that based on calendar? Is that how that
yes,
happens?
and they do. I don't, and I
You're okay.
There's other
Daryl.
people in the office that could probably answer that question better than me, but I believe it's every 6 or 7 years we have a rollback year. It used to be because you weren't practicing in July, but it's just one of those years that we roll everything back, and next year it'll be a little sooner, and then so that's just how it typically goes.
Okay. Very good. There you go. Yeah, because when Kevin, we were talking about some scheduling, and we were talking about some things we were doing, and you'd sent me the calendar dates for that, and I was kind of surprised. I was like, oh, okay. I said, hey, Kevin goes, wait a minute, that doesn't sound right.
Yeah.
You got us programmed. It's always the week after, or it starts with the 1A on that Memorial Monday or Sunday.
Yes, it normally is, but we're going to be running state track that weekend before. I mean, just everything moves back a week. So yeah, it is kind of a little bit getting used to, but yeah, they'll do it, 6 or 7 years from this year again.
Okay.
So.
Very good. Well, Mr. Daryl Bradley, we thank you, sir, for taking the time to come on the show and drop some knowledge.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me. We're going through fall baseball right now, and we got lots of games going on, and kind of getting ready for the spring season. But no, we're playing baseball now. The school year has begun, and so it's an exciting time for sure.
Absolutely. Folks, if you want to check out anything, especially, again, if you're looking to umpire, referee, get involved, M.S.H.A.A.org. You can go check that information out there on the website. I encourage you to do so. It's fun. Get you involved in the community. It's a lot of fun. And hopefully parents won't yell at you too much. That's the goal.
Or you can give us a call at the office. Give me a call, and I'll help you out.
Exactly.
If you're interested in being an umpire and you need more information, just give us a holler.
There you go. There you go. As always, Kevin Mulder, thank you, sir. Appreciate you taking the time to join us today. This weekend, we're going to be with Kevin. What we got going on, Kevin? Big one.
Fall games at Atkins Field in Columbia, Missouri. We got over 200 players, so we're going to pro-style workout and 5 games out at that beautiful complex. So looking forward to Saturday.
Absolutely. So are we. We're going to be interviewing some kids, having some fun. We'll be joining the PBR prep baseball out there on Saturday. Looking forward to it. Everybody, thanks for tuning in. Please, again, if you like what we're doing, hit the subscribe button. Hit the dinger next to it. It's not a home run, but it's a notification, and it's basically a home run for notifications for upcoming episodes such as this. We appreciate you and your support of Youth Baseball Midwest. Everybody have a great day in the Lord. All you pitchers, Kevin, tell them.
Keep throwing strikes.
Exactly. Hitters, hit them where they ain't. We'll see y'all next time.